Welcome to Inside Story. We're in the Lao People's Democratic Republic. It's a beleaguered country that's struggling with a deadly legacy from the Vietnam War. During the conflict, the United States dropped more than 2 million tons of ordnance in Lao territory, making the country the heaviest bomb per capita in the history of the world. While it's been more than 20 years since the so-called secret war in Laos has ended, the tragedy continues, with millions of pieces of unexploded ordnance contaminating the land and killing those who are trying to live off of it. We now show you their plight and what some are trying to do to save lives.
And they've dropped more on Laos than was dropped in all theatres during World War II.
Special concern with the problem in Laos goes back to 1954.
They're everywhere. There were millions. There's no way that you can predict where they may be or where you can find them.
That year at Geneva, a large group of powers agreed to a settlement of the struggle for Indo-China.
At least 47% of the casualties are children, under the age of 15.
And it was the clear premise of the 1954 settlement that this new country would be neutral, free of external domination by anyone.
Poor people, they don't have enough rice to eat. They need to take some risks to grow the rice.
(1954). The year marks the end of French colonial rule in Indo-China and the beginning of a new era, along with new fears.
I want to make it clear to the American people and to all the world that all we want in Laos is peace, not war. A truly neutral government, not a Cold War pawn. The security of all Southeast Asia will be endangered if Laos loses its neutral independence.
That danger is communism. Laos is seen as the key to Indo-China, the first domino to trigger it off should it fall into red hands. Next door, Viet Minh forces make gains. The North Vietnamese throw their support behind the communist Pathet Lao in its fight against the American-backed Royal Lao Army and the neutralist forces. That sets the stage for the U.S.'s 9-year battle from the other theater of war, a war which would claim truth as its first casualty. The U.S. carries out clandestine operations in Laos, and in 1964, to try to stop the advances of communist forces in Vietnam and Laos, the U.S. starts to secretly bomb the northern provinces and the Ho Chi Minh Trail, used by the North Vietnamese to try to infiltrate the South.
กันสมองกันมีเลือดต้องแทนด้วยเลือดอันนี้แม่นฆาตกรรมครอบงำและขายซาให้จักรพรรดิอาเมริกาทุกๆบ้านหลบที่พวกศัตรูเปิดบุกโจมตีเข้าเขตเรียบร้อยนั้นล้วนไปกลายเป็นบ้านตังขนาดใหญ่ของพวกมันเอง
This rare footage shows what became known as the most secret place on Earth, a base for CIA men, American military personnel, and their U.S.-trained and backed Hmong fighters. It's located southwest of the fabled and strategic Plain of Jars. It's there the U.S. coordinates air and ground strikes against the Pathet Lao and the North Vietnamese.
From 1964 to 1973, 9 years, there were about 580,000 bombing missions over our territory. And that's equivalent to a plane load of bomb every 8 minutes for 9 years, 9 full years. We estimate that about 2 million tons of bombs dropped on our territory. During 9 years, 2 million tons. But if we calculate how many people in Laos, so you can see that we receive a lot of bomb during the war.
By 1970, the B-52 becomes the cornerstone for U.S. policy in the region. The war is fought mostly in San Quang province in the north.
5 ปีผ่านมานี่จักรพรรดิอเมริกาได้เข็นฆ่า5
เพราะตอนพออยู่ในนี่นะเขามาถึงระเบิดยังก็เห็นอยู่ว่าตอนสงครามเห็นเพราะมันก็สำนวนบ่ได้แล้วนี่ถือว่าบ่ขาดกันเพราะว่าเวลานั้นบ่ได้คิดว่ามันมือนึงมีจักเที่ยวคันเพราะว่าเอาชีวิตรอดเพราะว่าพ่อแม่และเอื้อยนั่นน่ะไปเวียงจันทน์แล้วสุข่อยยังอยู่พี่แล้วมันถือว่าพาสองไอ้น้องพากันรอดไปน้ำหมู่มวลชนนั่นน่ะเพื่อเอาชีวิตรอดนั่น
Just how many bombs are to rain down on Laos soil? Enough to provide more than 2 tons of ordnance for every man, woman, and child in the country. But it isn't just a redirected U.S. policy that leads to the devastation of Laos. Bad weather and other problems make for bad delivery over Vietnam. It's another reason for American pilots to dump their payloads as they head home to their base in Thailand.
In the case of Laos, I think, nobody in the United States, or very few people in the United States, have even thought about this for 20 years or more. There isn't a widespread awareness that it's even a problem.
20 years on, the conflict continues to exact an even higher price.
I visited a village earlier.
The problem? Of the more than 2 million tons of bombs that are dropped, up to 30% fail to go off.
No, I've seen enough.
Why? Many are still in their infancy, meaning the U.S. dropped ordnance it wasn't even 100% sure would explode.
And it's not just bomblets. There's all sorts of ordnance from ground barrels as well, like hand grenades, artillery shells, mortars, rockets, some anti-personnel mines. So it's quite a wide spectrum of ordnance we find here.
The worst ones are probably Ziang Quang province and Huapon province in the north and Savannah Ket province in the south. The others are those eastern provinces that border Vietnam, where most of the bombing or fighting took place. Most of them were anti-personnel bomblets that were dropped from aircraft. These aircraft dropped what were called cluster bombs, and inside a bomb casing were about 600 tennis ball sized bomblets, anti-personnel bomblets that were meant to go off when they hit the ground. And often these would fail to detonate, and now they're laying on the surface or semi-buried in a very unstable condition.
And the problem is as vast as the amount of land littered with unexploded ordnance, more commonly known as UXO. About half of Laos's landmass is contaminated with bombs that are still lethal. American taxpayers spent unknowingly $2 million a day to fund a 9-year war.
And I was told that in this village during the war there were 11 people that got killed, but after the war, in the last 20 years, there were actually 13 people killed. So there are more victims after the war ended than during the war.
U.S. bombings stopped in 1973, the year a ceasefire is reached in Laos. 2 years later, Pathet Lao forces declare Vientiane and the country officially liberated. But Laos today finds itself captive to a decades-old problem, unexploded ordnance. Once the ancient kingdom of Lanzang, the land of a million elephants, Laos has secured an unenviable place in history as the most bombed nation on earth. whose wounds can be easily seen but not healed. When we come back, the legacy of the forgotten war, the victims of UXO. It's been 21 years since the communist takeover in Laos. In the capital, Vientiane, leaders are doing their best, keeping the country on its socialist path, while practicing pragmatism. Investments, tourism, they're strictly controlled, but not inflation, which tripled to nearly 20% last year, compared with about 6.5% the year before. But the country has an even more serious problem.
As you start to analyze why so many Laotians are poor, you soon realize that one of the major reasons in many villages is because of bombs and other ammunition that was left over from the Indo-China war.
Many people was displaced from that area, the bombing area, to the Vientiane, to the province along the Mekong, so we can see this kind of movement of the people. It's very unfortunate.
To see the problem for ourselves, we caught a short flight from Vientiane to San Quang, the province which took most of the pounding during the war. From the air, the scars are visible. With us, Ben Lark.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
A former Hong Kong policeman who now heads the Mines Advsiory Group's operation in Laos. It's a non-profit demining organization that's been working for nearly 2 years in the province's capital, Phonsavan. It's only been in recent years that the province's population is returning to its pre-war level. But there's a deceptive calm here as villagers and townspeople try to get on with their lives.
At the moment, it's a whole problem that's been ignored since 1975 because there hasn't been any capacity to destroy this ordnance. So it's been ignored. So the parents don't talk about it. They don't really tell their children about it.
The taboo subject, UXO. The most commonly found, the Blue 26, better known in Laos as the Bombie. It's believed about 285 million of these anti-personnel cluster bombs were dropped over Indo-China. More than half landed in Laos.
You'll find that there'll be approximately 670 of these. There's about 300 steel balls embedded in the actual jacket of this, which causes the fragmentation. So if you work out, it means approximately when a whole container of these goes off on the ground, there's going to be about 200,000 of these steel balls flying all over the place.
Its range is deadly. Within 150 meters, it can maim. Within 20, it can kill. Sipon Saisampon has lived in Ponsavan for 12 years. He knows just how lethal UXOs are.
เราอยากถามเจ้าว่ามันมีอย่างเกิดขึ้นเกี่ยวกับน้องชายเจ้าอันจริงตายอย่างนะเวลานั้นมันถือว่ามีสงครามเนาะปี69ต่อ70นะเป็นยังไงSay again about the things that happen. It's still.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. เอาพวกไปยังไปถามกันให้ใจดีๆยังไงbecause him was very sad. He lost his good brother. เอาตั้งใจดีเพราะเป็นอย่างแขนใจค่อยขอเล่าก่อนในชีวิตเนาะครอบครัวเราถือว่าสุขค่อยมันมีอยู่กับการได้เสียเนาะในเวลานั้นแล้วมันอันน่ะค่อยกับน้องค่อยแล้วมันไปนำกันร่วมกันแต่ว่าอายเลยแม่เลยมันไปทางเวียงจันทน์แต่ว่าสองไอ้น้องสุขค่อยไปมันพอดีเดินทางไปแล้วมันก็ถือกันนะบุ่มใส่เนื้อนะบุ่มดีแต่ว่ามันเป็นสายขึ้นมาแล้วนอกชายก็ไปถือแล้วในเวลาเดียวที่น้องเขาเสียอยู่บ่มันเสียอยู่บ้านค่อยได้ไปเสียอยู่เรื่องปัวแล้วสองไอ้น้องก็เห็นอย่างกันบ่ได้เดี๋ยวว่าน้องของค่อยนะถือว่าบ่ได้ฟังเลยใกล้ๆไปได้ยางกันห่างกัน15 เมตร
Sipon Saisapan not only lost a brother, but also an uncle who was killed while cutting wood. His wife's relative lost an arm, and his 25-year-old daughter, Dalivan, just finished training as a mine clearer for MAG.
จะมีความรู้สึกได้ที่ลูกสาวได้ไปเฮ็ดเวียกเก็บกู้ระเบิดไปกวาดล้างระเบิดแต่ว่าสำหรับส่วนตัวค่อยเนาะค่อยก็ดีใจที่ว่าน้องชายของค่อยได้สูญเสียย้อนระเบิดแต่ว่าค่อยให้ลูกค่อยไปเพื่อกู้ระเบิดนี่ก็คือกู้เอาชีวิตของคนลาวแต่ค่อยเสียใจที่น้องชายเสียปะก็เสียใจเขินจ้ะเจ้าคิดย่านอยู่บ่ว่าเวลาคิดย่านระเบิดอยู่ว่าเวลาลงสนาม
คิดย่านอยู่แต่ว่าเขาก็พยายามแหละ
20 years after the war is finished, people are still being killed and injured out in the provinces. And in some areas like Xiangkhouang province, it's almost a daily occurrence that you hear. A lot of land use is being denied because people are frightened to go and clear the land or to plough the land because there are these bombs buried underneath. And they know if they start breaking the ground, hitting it with a hoe in the traditional method, then they may get blown up.
And that's exactly what happened to this little boy. What are you writing down?
His name.
Yes.
Mr. Tanu. He's now 30 years old. 13 years old. He live in Ponmisai village. Ponmisai village. And he been injured.
How was he injured? UXO?
By Bombies, UXO.
Bombies?
Yes. He try to dig for the ground the
food?
Food, no, for the vegetable.
Vegetable, yes.
Yes. And that time, they explode.
Bomb explode.
Bomb explodes.
Did anyone else get hurt?
Yes.
Anyone else beside him?
Yes. มีเจ้าคนลูกอันตอนอยู่ตอนลูกขุดดิน
เขาเดินมันไปช่วยเล่นมาตัว
น้องชายเราก็ตาย his brothers dead คือหมดทั้งสาม yes ทั้งสามคนแต่ว่าน้องสาวเพิ่นบ่ตายอีกตายน้องชาย all together one family they have three the sister did injure and he injured and brother died yes in one family.
The Bombi claimed Tong To's sight and right arm. He now relies on his 6-year-old brother as the two roam the streets of Ponsovan, searching for compassion. Their parents and many others in their village are too afraid to work the land. It's a familiar story, a familiar fear. Of Laos' 4.5 million inhabitants, 3/4 are subsistence farmers. It's become an occupational hazard.
There are also indications that the problem has gradually become more serious because the rural population is rapidly increasing by about 2.6% every year. So there is a need for more food production, more use of the land, and even land which is known to be more dangerous. Laos is not self-sufficient on food.
They try to produce by themselves in the remote area, and also sometimes we have to supply, the government should have to supply what they need, because sometimes they don't have enough food for the area now.
Food shortages are common, along with children killed while playing with a UXO or sadly hitting one, as we found out when we visited a strategic military point during the war. This is Phnom Penh Junction. It's one of the busiest roads in the area. A day before we arrived, an accident happened here. 2 siblings from that village over there were playing here with rocks. A 5-year-old boy threw one and hit a bomblet. The bomblet exploded, the blast ripped open his stomach and blew his legs off. He died on his way to hospital, which is about 40 minutes away. His 3-year-old sister survived. But the most tragic thing about the accident is that it's a common occurrence that'll likely happen again. The blast happened about 100 meters from a UXO clearance site. A medic who arrived at the scene said the boy never had a chance.
ถือว่ามื้อนั้นน่ะเวลาพ่อประมาณ 3 โมงอย่างเช้านี่แหละแล้วมันเกี่ยมพ่อเกี่ยมขึ้นรถเนาะแล้วก็ได้ยินเสียงระเบิดแตกอยู่พี่มันพวกเฮาก็เป็นเฝ้าออกรถไปเบิ่งแล้วมันเห็นเด็กน้อยที่ว่าถึกระเบิดนะแต่ว่า2 คนเด็กน้อยนะผู้อ้ายถือว่าขาหักทั้ง2เบื้องแต่ว่ายังยืนได้อยู่เวลานั้นนะหลังจากที่พ่อไปฮอดปั๊บมันก็จึงล้มลงวันนี้พวกเขาก็เลยอุ้มขึ้นนอนหงายแล้วแปลงขาใส่แล้วครับให้มันนอนเหยียดนั่นแหละนอนเหยียดแล้วสิบ่รอดเพราะว่ามันมุนหลายนะมุนหมดทั้ง2แล้วก็ถึกบ่แม่นแต่ถึก2ขาหักเนาะแล้วก็ทางหน้านี่ถือว่าทางตานี่ก็บอดหมดทางหน้าทางตาบอดหมดแล้วก็หันของเด็กน้อยก็ออกแกนนึงนั่นลักษณะมันอันตรายหมดน่ะว่าเบิ่งบ่เป็นตาเบิ่งซะบูสิพันเลยว่าซะเนาะมันยังไดก็ตายซะ
Relatives of the dead boy traveled from Bon Pon village to mourn with the family.
มันเป็นไปคืนนั้นคือปีกายนี่เป็นไปคืนนั้นแล้วเขาก็รู้สึกอยู่ก็รู้สึกว่าย่านกลัวอยู่ดังนั้นก็แต่ละมื้อเขาก็เคยเอาลูกอยู่เฮือนนั่นแหละแต่ว่ากงกันข้ามในมื้อนั้นก็มันมีกรณีว่าแม่ก็ไปขายเครื่องซะเขาก็ไปทานลาป้าเด็กน้อยนี่อยู่เฮือนส่วนระยะจะซื้อดอกแล้วก็กรณีเราถึกบังเอิญคืนนี้นี่เขาก็ มองความจริงแล้วเขานี่ก็เมื่ออย่างที่แค้นใจที่สุดเพราะว่าผู้นึงก็ถึกเสียไปแล้วแต่ก็ยังเหลือผู้นึงเขาก็ถือว่าบ่ให้แหงปานใดแต่นั่งความเสียใจในมดขีดที่เสียใจที่สุดเพราะว่าถึกลูกเสียหายไปนั้น
According to our research, since 1975, 1,000 people have been killed or injured by unexploded ordnance in Mung Pek district, which is this district. Now I believe that maybe is 10% of the real total.
Mr. Buchan's son is now part of a list of those who've died from UXO and those who've been horrifically injured by it. But these reports and photos are only part of the picture. For people like Mr. Buchan, the numbers are irrelevant. What counts is whether their children will be able to have a chance in a country where vehicles have a longer life expectancy than its people. In a moment, we'll show you a different kind of search and destroy mission. Longer life expectancy. Welcome back to Inside Story. You've seen the devastation UXOs can cause. So what's being done about the problem? Well, the hard part just isn't locating and destroying the ordnance. It's actually educating the population so that the Lao people themselves can preserve and protect their priceless commodities. That's their land and their children. It's an early start. It's about 8 in the morning. They prepare for a long but typical journey. The weather isn't perfect. Neither is their travel. But they make the best of what's going to be a nearly hour-and-a-half trip. Even if it means walking part of the way.
This is taking a lot longer than I anticipated it would. Yeah. Okay. You know the office? Yeah. You know behind it?
They're on a search and destroy mission. For the Mines Advsiory Group, or MAG, it's a mission that seems to never end, except at 3 o'clock, when chopper cover is unavailable for medical emergencies.
Into basically high explosive, phosphorus, other smoke.
So how many types?
Oh, different types. Lost count.
Yeah.
We've got Soviet, Chinese, American, everything's here.
Everything means leftover artillery, like these found in a nearby village.
The reason they were actually in the village was they were taken there for scrap. They were going to open them up, break them down and sell the scrap, but they found it too difficult. There's a 250-pound aircraft bomb sitting in a garden just a few yards up from where these are, and that's been emptied.
Scrap metal goes for around 20 kip per kilo. That's less than 1 American cent. TNT can get you 800 kip per kilo. That's less than $1 American dollar.
We keep telling people don't move ordnance, don't move bomblets, because it's very, very sensitive stuff and it can easily explode. And these guys who've got 20, 25 years experience won't move them because they can't tell if the thing's going to go off or not. So how can a farmer?
But it seems for MAG, the hard part isn't only getting rid of these bombs, it's winning trust.
One of the problems is that they often think we're American. And there's still a lot of hatred of the Americans and what happened here. So we have to make it very clear that we're not American, which sounds a bit crazy, but the reason is that it then makes it much easier for us to work, you see, as they're much more cooperative.
I see, so they're not suspicious, they don't have their guard up and...
Well, they still do, they still have their guard up because Laos is such a closed country for such a long time. It's only very recently opened up. And in areas like Zhenguang, they're really not used to Westerners. They're really not, and they have no idea who we are, why we're here, even if we explain.
And in a few minutes, it's easy to know why they're here.
Okay, sentries out.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So 1,500.
Okay, get everything up.
What are they doing? What are they looking for now?
They're looking for particles, fragments of white phosphorus that were scattered when the shells exploded. And what we do is we come back and we rake over the earth. Every day when we come back here, the earth will be raked over, and eventually it'll stop burning, but it can take days to stop. And it's very nasty stuff. You see Peter here, he's got some on the spade he's found. Yeah. See, even though it's wet, a lot of this stuff is still burning.
So right now the priority is to collect all the particles and to put them all in one spot.
We put them all in this pit.
From here, it's informing the village chief nearby about what just happened. The message, though, isn't getting through to everyone.
Along the side there now, those 155mm shell.
Oh, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. See where the markings are here? Yeah. That's where I took the ones that you've seen this morning.
Here on, right here at the...
Yep. They'd moved, they moved them here from somewhere else, and we're now clearing them, and that is exactly as the headman showed them to me.
So you still have 1, 2, 3...
There's about 12 or 13 there. Some of them are buried. As you can see, if we'd tried to do anything, or if anything had gone, the number of houses round here, you know, the whole area would have been fragged.
Kamphong Darasan is also on a mission. The laws of supply and demand keep the 62-year-old in business. The landscaping business, that is, Lao style.
ไปพบอยู่ใส่เราก็ไปตามป่าตามดงนี่ก็พบหลายแล้วก็แกะออกมาบางอันก็แบะมาฮอดพี่บางอันก็เอาใส่รถมาพอสะสมหางมุมบีนี่ไว้ก็เพื่อจะหมุนใส่เห็ดหัวนี่เป็นลักหัวบ่หรือว่าเอาไปเห็ดเสาเคาะไก่เสาเคาะควายแล้วก็นานเพก่อนไหม
Rain or shine, his job never stops, like the detecting and clearing down the road.
Now, the other day, a child was killed by one of these on this site. And as Ben was saying earlier, they built this building here, and there's almost definitely ordnance underneath that base. And they're lucky that they didn't actually...
That one has gone off.
Yeah. They're lucky.
Back at Phnom Penh, it's archaeology, military style.
1, 2, 3
12 so far, and we haven't searched it all yet. The rock eye, which is the blue 118, is has a dual purpose. It's anti-armour and anti-personnel, so it's got this dual purpose, which makes it more lethal, if you like. Okay.
That's an American 40mm rifle grenade.
That's one of the most lethal bits of ordnance here to play with.
M79.
This site is so littered with UXO that before we were even allowed to step foot onto the site to film, we had to sign disclaimers, releasing MAG of any responsibility for our safety.
We're going to have to blow this one.
After the blast, things get back to normal, at least for now.
It would have been easier if we'd been able to clear the ground before they built the building, but such is life.
Children travel a great distance to attend school here. It's the old provincial capital in the Man Khun district, an area flattened during the war. As youngsters hit the books at the school located on a former army campsite, MAG staff hit the ground.
เพราะว่าตามธรรมดาแล้วพวกเขากวดนี่นะระหว่างมหาชนหรือว่าประชาชนอยู่หม้อพวกเขาจะบ่ได้มันต้องแม่น50 เมตรขึ้นไปแต่ว่าอันนี้มาเบิ่งแล้วนี่ก็ซับซ้อนอยู่เพราะเด็กน้อยก็หลายคนเว้าผู้นึงอย่างผู้นึงเว้าผู้นึงอย่างผู้นึงแต่พวกเขาก็พยายามที่สุดถ้าเด็กน้อยมาใกล้เขาก็จะเซาบ่ให้ไอ้น้องเขาขุดแล้วก็จะได้บอกเด็กน้อยหนีหลังจากเด็กน้อยหนีไปไกลแล้วเขาจะได้สืบต่อเวียกทั้งสั้นก็เป็นการซักซ้าหลายอยู่นี่
It's been a month since MAG started detection on this site. The good news, not many readings. The bad news, with a range of 30 centimeters, UXO contamination may be too far down for the metal detectors to pick up.
เห็นแล้วต้องเบิ่งทางหัวมันนี่มันมีผิวหรือบ่นี่หัวมันบ่มีผิวแล้วเขาออกได้นี่
But there can be a few surprises.
นี่หัวมันบ่มีผิวนะ
The 45-year-old veteran site supervisor shows us another fresh discovery nearby.
ลูกปืน57อเมริกาเป็นผู้เฮ็ดลูกปืนอันนี้นะถือว่าอเมริกาเฮ็ดหลังจากอเมริกาเฮ็ดแล้วมันก็ได้ส่งมาให้พวกหัวจัดอยู่เวียงจันทน์แล้วเอามาต้านกับประชาชนลาวอยู่ในเขตปลดปล่อยเขตสงบนี่แล้วตัวนี้เป็นเครื่องเศษเหลือสงครามของจากจักรพรรดิอเมริกาที่ยังคงค้างทางสั้นพวกเราอยากทำลายมันทิ่มให้หมดตัวนี้นะเราต้องแต่ละมือนะถ้าเห็นเราจะเก็บไปทำลายหรือว่าสิ่งที่ใดเราเก็บบ่ได้มันมีอันตรายมีหัวฟิวอยู่หั่นนะเราจะได้ทำลายกลับที่
Last year, nearly 24 school grounds were cleared. The number of detections can be staggering.
We detected here with our mine detectors, we actually found and destroyed over 700 pieces of ordnance. And as you can see, it's a very small area. We actually found 8 of the bomblets inside the classroom.
Nearly a dozen varieties were dropped over Laos. In Sang Quang alone, 9 different kinds have been found.
How does this one go off? I mean, when it
We don't know a lot about this one. We're getting some information through the embassy in Vientiane. They liaise through the contacts they've got within the departments in America.
While MAG waits, it hopes to get its own information out that more UXO demolitions will be in the works, along with awareness.
We've destroyed over 11,000 pieces of ordnance since we've been here. In the last 4 months, we've trebled the size of our operation. So we're hoping that by the end of this year, maybe 30 or 40,000 pieces destroyed, maybe 40 villages given the community awareness treatment.
After the break, the uphill battle in delivering the message. And it's no secret, an historic deal signed between the US and the Lao government. Stay with us.
But it would take probably hundreds of years to clear everything underground.
Laos is a very poor country. Actually, about half of its population live under the poverty line.
Every job we do, every piece of ordnance we destroy is actually going to hopefully save a life or open up land to be cultivated that couldn't be cultivated before.
there was a certain apprehension on the part of some people in the government to have U.S. military, active duty U.S. military people back in.
In Laos, a tenth of its villages are located near roads. That can make life difficult, whether it's delivering goods or a message.
The fathers, mother, adults, they understood about UXO, but the children is more difficult to tell them to understand about the UXOs.
And how many villages do you need to keep visiting? How many more do you have to keep visiting?
So we hope that we have to go to every village.
Getting to one takes time, patience, and a good set of tires for the long drive.
This is my second trip, but normally I work in the field with the specialist. So this is a special time that I go with the CAP team. Normally the CAP team, they got 2 translators, but one they go to the other district. So that's why I have to take over.
The 30-year-old used to work in the commerce unit at the Thai embassy. Now he's making it his job, selling a message door to door. With the help of flashlights. It's a wrap-up party tonight. 6 families in this village are celebrating 2 weeks' worth of UXO awareness. Word gets out, drawing a huge crowd from afar. Exactly what organizers hoped for. And tonight, Mother Nature is unable to put a dent on enthusiasm. The reality, though, is that scenery is spoiled and far from safe. It's all part of the community awareness strategy, getting information and prioritizing.
In each district we have a team of data gatherers that on a rota basis go to all the villages in the district. They collate all the information on casualties, how many people have been injured and killed historically, and also how many people are now being killed and injured, how much ordnance there is lying around in the villages, what type it is.
The other goal?
They stand not to play with the bombs and not to do anything when they see the bomb, not to touch it, just leave it or just tell the project to come to destroy it.
Back in Vientiane, the Lao government is putting its faith in a nationwide program to combat an old enemy.
Well, this office is very new.
SciCam heads Laos' national UXO program, established early this year in conjunction with the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP.
The most important thing is how to reach the parents, the people, the children, and so on. That's our goal here is to reduce the victim by through education of the people. And the second component of our work program is the national survey, or UXO survey for the whole country.
But then we believe that
Ian Mansfield spent 4.5 years in Afghanistan before the Lao government recruited the Australian as program advisor.
one of the main aims of this national program that's been set up in cooperation with the United Nations and the Lao government is to make it a Lao program, to train up Lao staff, to make it long-term and sustainable. This demining, as it's generally called, is an expensive business. You have to buy equipment, you have to have explosives, you have to have vehicles, you have to have safety medics, this type of thing. So the more reliance that can be placed on local people to do the work themselves, the cheaper the cost of the operation.
Lao staff working for MAG, for instance, make about $200 a month. In Lao terms, that's considered a good salary. Equipment like metal detectors can cost several $1,000s. It's easy to see how operational expenses can add up. The UNDP set up a trust fund last August as part of the solution. So far, $2 million has been put into the kitty.
In order to make a real dent on this program, to make a real difference, we need $6 to $8 million per year, and we need for this program to continue for maybe a decade. The problem is so vast, the country is so badly affected by UXO that we need to set up a fairly large operation. Maybe as many as 1,000 staff. We need to work on this problem for about 10 years to make a real difference.
And for some, what's already made a difference? In late March, Vientiane and Washington signed a memorandum of understanding, allowing the U.S. to provide just over $2.5 billion in aid. And more. A 40-minute drive from Vientiane takes you to Nam Suang's district's Ban Na Nga village. It's a sleepy village, but it may not be for long. Australia and the Lao government used to carry out joint agricultural projects here, but soon it's expected to be officially the home for the U.S. military. About 30 explosives experts from the U.S.'s Special Forces are to train Lao personnel in clearing ordnance. Now, the whole idea about having a U.S. military presence here has raised a few eyebrows, but most strongly believe that it's going to be a major step in paving the way for donor countries to do the same. The Lao government has always been weary of help from outside, especially from the U.S., concerning its UXO problem. The last thing it wanted were military personnel, especially American, working in the country. While the U.S.'s role will be under the UN-backed Lao UXO National Steering Committee, it's been an uphill battle since 1994. It sounds like it took quite a while to gain the trust of the Lao government.
Yes, quite frankly, and I think it goes without saying that there was a certain apprehension on the part of some people in the government to have U.S. military, active duty U.S. military people back in Laos engaged in activities.
It's believed at least 200 Americans were killed in Laos, and another 200 missing in action. The issue is an ironic twist of fate, bringing the governments together, fighting on the same side.
We have now had for a number of years a cooperative program with Laos to try to account for people missing from the war years. The more time that went by that we were working together on that issue, the more comfortable the Lao became with the idea that you could have American military personnel back in Laos engaged in programs that had no connection, except in the remotest sense, with the period of the war, but were very beneficial to Laos.
And big businesses hope to benefit from the country. In recent years, companies involved in mineral exploration in Laos have come across UXO. They've hired their own private clearance teams to clear sites where drilling and exploration were and are taking place. One of the many private companies involved, the American-based Hunt Oil Company. It seems political and economic realities are hard to ignore.
In March, there was an agreement signed between the United States and the Lao government. Is that more significant or symbolic?
It's very important, very good step, a new development of the relation between the two countries.
Do you feel that there's an irony?
Yeah, it's...
But what is the long-term objective? You're going to have 30 specialists from the special forces who will be in Vientiane to set it all up. When will they leave?
The project was constructed in a way that if we had no more money, we could complete the basic task within a year's time, more or less. Now, the fiscal year is now half over, more than half over, and it will be only later this month and next month that we will actually start getting people on the ground and engaged in this.
So how many will follow in America's footsteps down a difficult path the U.S. paved more than 20 years ago during the war? In the horizon, it seems there's an undeniable certainty. The legacy of a forgotten war is slowly coming out of the dark.
I think there are several reasons why the UXO problem in Laos has become more well known to the international public. Certainly one relates to the opening up of
The damage that is done when he hits a cluster bomblet with a hoe and when he steps on a landmine buried in the ground.